Welcome to Pensar Basketball Live, and I'm not seeing a live signal, so y'all just let me know in the comments if I'm actually live. Okay. The Raptors finish preseason undefeated for the first time in team history. It's a bit of a bittersweet moment for me, obviously, with everything that's been going on with Jeff Dowtin. Clearly, that's been very much on my mind. Couldn't help but look at him on the bench and just feel really bad that he didn't even get into the game in a 40-point blowout. But that is how the cards played out. I did interview his trainer. That video is going to come out tomorrow, regardless of the fact that he literally just got waived 2 minutes ago. And, you know, whereas perhaps it's not going to serve as a push for the Raptors, maybe it will serve as a push for another team or a push for another fan base to cherish this player and to recognize what he means. The Raptors do blow out a hapless Wizards team. A really strange game, right? They kind of come out really weird lineup, really weird energy. Um, Darko Rakovic calls a timeout, and they never look back again, right? And once again, it came down to Scottie and that bench unit to turn around the entire game, right? A bench unit which included guys like Gradey Dick, Jalen McDaniels, Scottie Barnes, and I guess because Gary Trent was out today, it did not include Gary Trent and include guys like Malachi Flynn, Gradey Dick, etc. Putting shooters around him and letting him play point, even with Malachi Flynn on the court, even with Dennis Schroeder on the court. It's looked really good. There was a time in today's game where he literally looked like I'm not kidding. He looked like an NBA veteran playing like a high school pickup game. It was like he was going at one pace, everyone else is going at a completely different pace. Is that because Scottie is trying harder than everybody else? I don't think so. I think it's just in his mindset. He's come out this year with a completely different mindset, and it shows. Unfortunately for the Raptors, despite the 4-0 meaningless, really it's going to be a clean slate on October 25th. The Raptors do lose Scottie Barnes to a foot sprain. That's what we were told. It's a foot sprain. We will hear from Darko Rakovic in about 10 minutes. We're going to pull that video up. We're going to listen to Darko explain that it's nothing serious, and hopefully he's telling the truth on that one. And, I'll give you a little preview on what Jeff's trainer, Brian, and I talked about today. I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek of that video that will be coming out tomorrow. As Jeff clears waivers and probably ends up catching on with another team at one of their last roster spots or two ways. I saw a lot of encouraging signs today from the Raptors. I think a lot of players played well. I do want to stress this is preseason. It's really difficult to ascertain what is and what isn't happening on the court, but there are some, and especially when you're starting to look at numbers and data, as this channel likes to look at numbers and data to try and find trends. But I think we're going to lean on the eye test, specifically how certain lineups play together and what I think the Raptors can do to remedy that. Because I do think that for those of us who are optimistic that this team might come out in the season and surprise some people, I think so far so good, right? It looks like they might actually have the capability of doing that. They're buying into the system. Looks like some guys have taken a step. Looks like Scottie's taken a really big step. It's good to see OG have a bounce back game. Anyways, we're going to hit that intro. And then on the other side of this, we are going to hear from Darko Rakovic. I'm seeing a couple of callers already lined up. This is sorry, Eric is saying Samson folks just tweeted who we waived. Yes, I know. Yeah, I found out about 6 minutes ago. So I was like really sad about that. I just had to take a moment to kind of gather myself. Anyways, we're gonna get to this intro, and then I promise I'll perk up. I'm just trying to process, right? Y'all know me, right? I mean, at this point, like we know each other well enough to be able to honestly express that this is bullshit, right? It sucks, but we'll talk about it. And look, at the end of the day, it's going to be a happy ending, right? The Raptors are going to be fine, right? Javon Freeman Liberty is awesome, right? I think they have some depth. I think Gradey Dick showed something. I think, Scottie's taken a step. I think Dennis Schroeder can be a part of something. So I'm just, at the end of the day, this is a business. I get it. But I do feel bad for him for sure. Okay, hit that intro, and if you want to call in, definitely call in. The link is in the description. All right. Okay. 5-minute bummer intro out of the way. I'm going to try to be a little bit happier. I did just eat an entire pizza, stress eating, waiting for the end of the game, trying to see if Jeff would get into the game, but he didn't. So that's all she wrote. And, best of luck to Jeff Dowtin. And, we will continue to support. That video is still coming out. I know some of you are saying, why would the video still come out, Rob? Well, because a very lovely human being took an hour of his time to generously, talk to me about Jeff and his journey. We talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about he's a high school teammate of Kevin Durant's. We talked about Katie, early Katie. Kevin Durant, to those of you who don't know, my favorite player growing up. Vince Carter, Kevin Durant. These are two of my favorite players growing up. So it was really interesting to just have a conversation about basketball business, and just have an authentic conversation, because these authentic conversations, they are rare. They are rare. A lot of these podcasts end up becoming gotcha journalism where, I'm trying to get him to say something that's controversial so that I can get clicks. And it wasn't that type of interview. And, to anyone out there, if we ever do this, if, I ever talk to a player or whatever, it's never going to be that type of interview. It's always going to be real. It's always going to be authentic. It's always going to be from the heart. And that's what the conversation was. So I'm looking forward to releasing it regardless. And I hope that it helps him in some small way. All right. Let's start with a thank you. First of all, I promise we will get off of the waving of Jeff Dowtin right after I say this. I want to thank y'all from the bottom of my heart for doing what you've done. Believe me, every time someone's like free Jeff Dowtin hashtag, it was all over Twitter, all over Facebook, all over YouTube. It didn't even matter if the video had something to do with him, didn't have something to do with him. Tell me if you saw it. Y'all saw it, right? It was everywhere. And I just want you to know he saw it too. So you saw his face. And if you have a heart, you're probably feeling pretty bad, because there's not a guy who deserves to be cut. And you know that. If you're being real with yourself, whether you think he's a difference maker, whether you think he's a great player, good player, he didn't get a fair shake, right? He didn't get a fair shot. You know that when Matt Devlin says Malachi Flynn won out the backup point guards, that's not true, right? Like, here's a stat to pop your head off. Jeff Dowtin leads the Raptors in points per shot in the preseason with his generous 8 minutes, 2.67 points per shot. Going into tonight, Malachi was at 0.85. That was second worst on the team. So look, Malachi had a good game. Not throwing shade on Malachi. I think Dennis Schroeder had a pretty good game. I'm just on record saying I would start him over both. And that's how high I am on him. And I hope that some general manager out there sees him. I actually, this is funny how the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I was recalling when I was talking to his trainer today, I had a flashback, like a moment. And it was around I think it was 1993, I was a kid. And I remember every single day my dad would vent about this incredible player from Croatia who was sitting on the bench in Portland. it was like 95, 94. I can't remember the exact date, but it was like I was a really small kid, and all he would complain about was this guy. Like he's such a great player, and he's just sitting at the end of the bench and he's collecting the MPCDs, and it's so depressing because he used to score like 100 points back home, and then he gets traded to the New Jersey Nets. And let me know if you know who I'm talking about. And then he becomes an all-star. It happens. He was playing behind Terry Porter. He was playing behind a lot of really good players. I think he was playing behind Danny Ainge in Portland, Clyde Drexler. There were a lot of good players ahead of him. This is sometimes just how the cookie crumbles, right? I think the coach for the Rockets at the time was Rick Adelman. So he didn't want to play him. And, he didn't see the good for you, Mohammed. Yes, Drazen Petrovic is who I'm talking about. So look, Petrovic was a scrub. For the Portland Trailblazers faithful and fans, no one thought twice. Jermaine O'Neal, when the Portland Trailblazers traded him, he was a teenager. He barely played. He was behind Brian Grant, Rasheed Wallace. And this is going way back. I mean, if you've been watching Hoops for the last 15 years, you're not going to get these references. I get that. But back in the early 2000s, late 99, 2000s, there was a 17-year-old collecting dust on the Portland Trailblazers bench who went on to become a future All-NBA guy, which was Jermaine O'Neal. So I don't believe that it's ever too late for a player to catch the right situation. And I think that Jeff is more than talented enough and hardworking enough that he will land on his feet. And I know he's going to do well. And he has good people around him. He has a good head on his shoulders. And sometimes you get a feeling about people. I got this feeling about Anthony Parker long time ago. Just listening to him, that he was going to do something in this world. You get this feeling with some people, right? He's a general manager now. So it's like the cream always rises to the top. But what I will say is it's crazy. I mean, I have not seen another fan base go balls out for a undrafted guy who's 26 years old, sitting at the end of the bench. These are usually the guys that get overlooked by a fan base. And you guys, and then the city of Toronto really, really showed him a lot of love. And I'm sure that he appreciates it as he goes off onto his next journey. He's going to get on a flight tonight. I already knew about this. He's going to get on a flight tonight, leave Toronto, unfortunately, and get in the gym tomorrow. And he's going to get back to work. But hey, I don't know. You think maybe it's going to be a little bit better day to know that the Raptor fans kind of saw him and appreciated him. So whatever you feel right now, thank you for the Free Jeff Dowtin movement. This movement goes back to, I want to say about 8-9 months ago. We started talking free Jeff Dowtin. And to anyone who participated in it, whether you feel like you lost right now, trust me, you won. You absolutely won, because you showed a player who is being overlooked by his coaching staff, overlooked by the management, overlooked by the league, overlooked by fans in general, that you see what he's doing and that it's working. So keep it up, Jeff. If you end up watching this, naturally, we still support you and we wish you best on your next stop. I'm sure you're going to do great. All right. Okay, let's hear from Darko Rakovic, and then we will get to talking about the game, what I saw, lineups, etc. And I'll give you a little short preview of that conversation with Jeff's trainer, like 2-3 minutes, just to give you a taste of it. Great dude. And then we will absolutely get to the calls. We have a couple of callers. Again, if you want to call in, link is in the description. All right.
Do you see what happened with him at all, or do you know what?
He's fine. I did not actually see the play. They just told me that it was knee to knee hit. He's completely fine.
It's not knee to knee, but okay.
He got some very good minutes out of Precious, I thought, during the game. What did you think of the way he looked for his first run?
I thought he did some really good stuff there. Obviously, he's still searching for the rhythm, and I kind of wanted to extend his minutes in the second half. Even the game was already kind of result-wise over, so I just wanted him to start getting the feel of the game again, and that's going to be important for him for the start of the year, that he's finding his groove and he feels comfortable handling the ball and making decisions on the court for us.
How about the job you guys did defensively out pool?
O.G Anunoby. I have 3 words for you. O.G Anunoby. He was outstanding. Followed the game plan. His length, physicality, but it's very underestimated the way he's processing the game, the way he's approaching to the opponents, the amount of time he's spending actually watching a film and analyzing those guys. O.G Anunoby is as good as anybody defensively.
I'm sure you watched a lot of Scottie tape from last year. What have you seen? How have you seen him, I guess, improve or look different in preseason so far?
Scottie is a unicorn. He can play 1 through 5, any position. He's good handling the ball. He's good setting screens in pick and roll. We're finding more of those opportunities for him as well. I think he had a great preseason here. He did an amazing job during the summer. His shooting is coming along. He's feeling more comfortable, and him and the whole team is feeling more comfortable because we were doing a good job of moving the football and finding each other. And when you play in that kind of in the flow, it's much easier to knock down shots.
Coach, what does it mean to you to go undefeated in the preseason?
Nothing.
No weight on it?
Nothing at all. It's all of this. What matters is our preparation for the regular season, for about what's going to start. It's a question asking me what it meant 1-4 in a summer league. It was us learning. It was us getting better. It was having that approach. Regular season starts now, and our main thing starts now.
You feel like you're able to learn a lot from the rotations and different looks that you're kind of using in the preseason, though?
We learned a lot, and I think we're going to continue learning as the season is progressing. I think we have great depth on our team, multiple players that can step on the floor and affect the game on both ends of the floor, and I'm not going to be in an easy situation to decide who are the guys going out and competing every night, because we have a lot of great players that deserve that.
So Precious comes into the game, his first preseason game. He blows up a pick and roll, blocks the line. Then he gets switched out in a cross match onto Jordan Poole in transition. And Poole was obviously a really great creator off the bounce. Stonewalls him twice. This is a power forward or center stepping out on that guy after doing a classically big man thing. How impressed were you with his defensive range in his first game back?
I'm impressed with him, and I'm seeing that every single day. Every practice and every time when he touches the floor, he's just making winning plays. And for me, that's no surprise. And then at the same time, I don't see him as a 4, as a 5, as a 3, as a 2. He's just player that can guard multiple positions. And you could see tonight when he was on the floor, we were inclined more to switch because I have such a trust that he can handle any player 1 through 5 on the court.
And then when we're looking at offensively, you used him kind of as a guard coming off that handoff with Pascal. He got right to the rim. Are you impressed with his range as far as what he can do offensively as well?
Yes, I am.
Scottie took 5 3-pointers in the first 17 minutes or something. The willingness to do that, take those threes, is that something that you can see opening up his game, or how will it open up his game?
But for sure, I think that shooting in general is helping any player. When you have good 3-point spot up shooting, now defense is more closing out. But now, if you're closing out on Scottie Barnes, God help you. Now you're dealing with him going downhill and finishing at the rim or connecting with his teammates, and that's gonna really help his game, and it's gonna really help our game.
Okay, hold on.
On Scottie Barnes, God help you. Now you're dealing with him
Can
going
someone please
downhill
clip that?
and finishing at the rim or connecting
God
with his
help you?
teammates, and that's gonna
Love it.
really help his game, and it's going to really help our game. And I want Scottie to shoot. I think that he took all great shots in the game. He was not forcing anything. Everything came to him, and he just took advantage of the those opportunities.
You talked yesterday about Gradey kind of letting the game come to him a little bit more. Did you see more of that game slowing down for him a little bit today?
Yeah, he was good until he got tired. When he got tired, he started leaning on shots. I told him in the game, you just gotta still focus, on doing small things on both ends of the floor. He got burned one time on the back door. He's a young player. It's a lot of for him going on over there. But like first couple of minutes when he stepped on the floor, he was impressive.
Thanks very much.
That's funny. God help you. I don't think I've heard a coach describe one of his players that way, unless that player was Michael Jordan. Koopa Troopa saying, how many espressos did Darko have before the interview? My money is on 1 or 2. All right. In terms of what stuck out, first of all, Otto Porter, right? Great to see him back, right? Those of you who follow this channel know he's one of my favorite players. Had a really big annoyance with how the media has talked about him. I want him to shut a lot of people up. Selfishly, I want him to shut a lot of people up. Doesn't do a lot, right? I mean, this is the type of player that he could score 2-3 points and probably be plus 22 on the court, right? He just does all these small things that go unnoticed by a casual fan. But then you look at his box plus minus, you look at his defensive analytics, you look at his offensive analytics, you look at how much other players play better when they're with him. He completely stretches the floor. In terms of good things, now, a lot has been made about Gradey Dick. Now, to those of you, again, who follow this channel, you know that on draft night, I did not have the most exact favorable reaction to Gradey Dick the minute he was drafted. But by the time the night was over, I kind of came around on it and did more research, and I've been singing his praises ever since. And I haven't stopped. And nothing I've seen in preseason so far is worrying me. I know that people are, looking at Cam Whitmore. They're looking at a lot of other players who are thriving right now, and they're saying, well, why not him? Why not him? They're looking at Keontae George. They're looking at Kobe Buffkin, etc. Look, I think internally, to the people I've spoken to, the Raptors see this guy as a Gordon Hayward type. Okay, now you may not see it right now because Gordon Hayward was a lot bigger in terms of just how he was built coming out of, I think it was Butler, if I'm not mistaken. He was just a big dude. Like you see him even in his rookie season at Utah, and he was just filled. His frame was a little bit bigger than Grady's. But their games are actually remarkably similar. I've drawn the comparison myself, and if they really do think that they have a Gordon Hayward clone on their hands, that they think they can develop him into one, that's an all-star. I mean, need I remind you, there was a time when Gordon Hayward was ahead of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in an offense. So look, a healthy Gordon Hayward is the type of player that is a dream fit around a Scottie Barnes, O.G Anunoby, Pascal Siakam type team. And one of the things with Gordon that often went overlooked was just how athletic he was and what a great rebounder and how tenacious he was as a rebounder. Often, there's a stereotype around white shooters that you're just a white guy who stands around and shoots, doesn't play defense, but Gordon kind of broke the mold on that. Another guy who kind of broke the mold on that was Mike Miller. And, again, ethnicity bias aside, he reminds me of both those players a lot. And again, I think that he can be probably better than those guys. I see something in him. Look, movement shooting is such a skill set. He's 19 years old. So to the Raptors fan base and faithful, I just say, have patience. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm pretty sure no one here is freaking out. I haven't read any Gradey slander on this channel, but it's pretty much all over the internet. This guy's struggling with a shot, this, that. We should have picked this guy. Please shut up. Stop. He's doing really well. I think that he sees the game. As a 19-year-old, he sees the game about as well as pretty much any 19-year-old I've seen that's not a top 3, top 4 pick, okay? Yeah, if we're comparing him to Magic Johnson, Scottie Barnes, LeBron James, okay, fine. Maybe he's a step behind that. But outside of those guys, he's very much in the, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell type of, this is his feel and vision for the game. So for the 13th overall pick, I think it's solid value. And I think over the year, you'll see him get more comfortable as he catches NBA rhythm, as he gets more acclimated to the weight room. And, hopefully, it's not usual that guys are going to put on a ton of weight during the season or get really stronger because the NBA season is such a grind, so much travel. But just by product of being older, I think that by the time he's around 21, it will be unquestionable that he's absolutely starting for this team. and probably cracking 20 points per game on very efficient shooting. And look, I know that it has been a very limited sample size, and I know that he's a rookie right now, but the minutes with him and Scottie are completely unlocking both players. Like, I realize Gradey kind of went off after Scottie left, etc. But I'm saying, like, some of those minutes where Scottie has played with lineups which feature either Jalen or Gradey, this entire concept of a player who just kind of moves around as a moving target for a really big gifted passer to just find, it's a very intriguing long-term vision. And I think that, stick with it. I think the Raptors have a really good one here. I liked what I saw from Precious Achiuwa, man. Yeah, I think it gives you something off your bench. This versatility, this ability to switch 1 through 5. I mean, people talk about it all the time like it's a thing. There are a lot of guys who think they can switch 1 through 5, and they really can't. And probably you can count them on 2 hands. I think there are about 20 to 25 players in the league who can genuinely guard 1 through 5. What do I mean by genuinely guard 1 through 5? Do I mean like he can guard some centers and some point guards? Like he can guard a center if he's small and a point guard if he's slow? No. I mean, like, I could literally throw you on Ja Morant and trust that you're not going to get killed. And I can throw any more than someone else would. And I can throw you on Karl-Anthony Towns in the post and trust that you're not going to get killed. How many players can you really think of? I mean, I think 2 hands might even be generous. No, what am I saying? I'm saying 2 sets of hands. So I mean 20 players. They're rare. And the Raptors have at least 3 of them. And you could probably push and make a case for Pascal. I've continued to be pretty impressed with Pascal. I didn't love his game today, but overall, as a 4-game sample, I liked his preseason a lot. He was very efficient. He wasn't very ball dominant. I think he took shots. And I think that this point that Darko Rakic made about taking shots is a really important thing. This is the thing with Ben Simmons. He doesn't take the threes, right? We see him making them in practice, but he won't take them in the game. There are a lot of players out there who are just uncomfortable because they are scared that they're going to miss or that their efficiency is going to go down, or you have to like really get them around to taking those shots. And then it just makes the problem even worse, right? I mean, you have guys where, I mean, genuinely, they could probably shoot 32, 30, 31%, but they won't take them. And it really hurts the offense because if I know that you can't do it and I know that you won't do it, then I'm definitely not guarding you. Now, if I know that you can't do it well, but you might do it or that you will do it, then at least I have to respect you to some extent. And I think Scottie is sort of just making sure that teams at least think about coming to him at the line. And you don't need him to be a 40% three-point shooter for this to work, nor do you need Pascal to be a 40% three-point shooter for this to work. You just need them to take the shots that are being generated for them, because almost always they're going to be open until they're not open. And the day they're not open, then as Darko Rakic said, God help you, because now he is too big, too strong, and his first step, granted, is not the quickest in the NBA. This is not Javon Freeman Liberty. This is not this is not Ja Morant. But he's just big enough and smart enough, and his handle is just tight enough at this point where if you close out on him too hard, he's gonna get past you pretty quick. So you do have to give him some space. And if you give him space and he's willing to take the shot that he's supposed to take, or if the offense is hum and it's generating a 3, and too often today I found that the offense generated a poor look, right? Either it's we'll talk about that for sure at the end, because there's a lot of things the Raptors have to clean up on offense, but I just want to keep it to positive right now, that I've been very encouraged by what I saw from Scottie and Pascal throughout the preseason. And while I was not encouraged by what I'd seen from O.G Anunoby offensively, I think this was the first game where I felt like he was kind of closer to rhythm. And I suspected this might happen. Like, he's just kind of playing himself, and now he's in rhythm. So it is a good thing. Other positives. I think Malachi played okay. It's hard to judge against this competition. I'm being straight up. Like, the other team is playing their second, third string. It's not a good team. I mean, I'm not sure if they're better than the Taipans. I guess they are better than the Taipans because they beat the Taipans by 50 points, but Kyle Kuzma's not playing. I'm not really sure this is like really competition that you can judge what someone can do, can't do. I'm not taking Scottie's MVP production. Just an FYI, if you prorate his numbers to per 36, he's basically on par with a lot of MVPs in terms of efficiency, in terms of everything. Do I think Scottie Barnes is going to win MVP this year? Man, that would be great. That'd be great. But I don't think that this preseason should be used as a sample that Scottie's going to win MVP. So take the numbers with a grain of salt. The competition has not been strong. The Raptors had a disproportionately soft preseason schedule. So I agree with Darker Rap, which is 4-0 means absolutely nothing. But at the end of the day, what we are looking for is lineup synergy. We're looking for how certain players play off of each other, how certain players are reading and reacting to situations. And honestly, even though you can't tell something good happening, like if you're scoring 30, 40 points, in a quarter, you can't really say, well, we can do it against the Wizards in a preseason game. We can definitely do it against the Timberwolves in a regular season game, or we can do it against the Warriors, or we can do it against the Lakers. You can't. But I tell you, the things that you can't do right now, they are sticking out. So a few things that stick out in terms of what this team is consistently screwing up on. To me, now I could have blinders on, but the team looked best when Scottie was running point. Now, I'm pretty firm that Scottie Barnes is a point guard and that he effectively is the team's point guard, that the best stretches of this preseason have been dominated with him playing point, right? And look, I think that there are a lot of times where less developed playmakers made some pretty glaring and unforgivable mistakes today. We're talking botched, like fast breaks where, you're just throwing it off a guy's hand. There are advanced reads. In the NBA, we talk about reads and advanced reads. Advanced reads are knowing what's coming ahead of the play, two, three moves ahead. So when I pass to a Pascal Siakam streaking down the court, the play is, look, he's open, let me give him the ball. That's as far as most people can see the game. You and me, probably, if we play basketball, that's as far as our brain is going to be able to process all the things that we're doing at once, right? We're dribbling the basketball, we're running, we're trying to process where the other defenders are. We see a guy who's open, we don't see anyone around him, so we throw him the ball. But that's not how people like Scottie Barnes or Jeff Dowtin, I'm just going to throw that in there, Jeff Dowtin, Jason Kidd. That's not how people who make advanced reads read the game. What they read is, what does the court look like right now? And when I pass you the ball, how will the court have changed? And what do I need to do to this pass, either to throw it or not throw it, to adjust to the future reality of what the court is going to look like? Sometimes this will result in a turnover. Sometimes it's a miscalculation. But when you see a young player who can see this, that's when you know you have a point guard. That's when you know you have a LeBron James. Even when he was 14 years old, he processed the game like this. The Raptors have a lot of players who don't process the game like this. They see, a guy open, but they don't see that there's a guy right next to him, a guy gapping the passing lane, and that by the time they make this pass, that the player that they're passing to will be triple teamed. They don't see that. They also don't see that the guy who's currently covered, there's a guy who's leaving him, going away from him. And if they threw him the ball right now, it would completely throw the defense into scramble. This is the difference between a Magic Johnson and a Jose Calderon. Yeah, they both pass the ball, but there is a really big difference in how they pass the ball. So this is not what I'm talking about, though. Being able to run a 3-on-1 or 3-on-2 fast break should be something that every high school team can do. And I don't know, going back to last year, I don't know why the Raptors often seem to not be able to do it. I don't think Dennis Schroeder is that great a point guard. I'm just going to be real about that. The assist numbers don't dazzle me at all. I'm seeing a lot of erroneous reads on his part. I'm hoping that it's because he's new, but I suspect that it's not. I've watched him long enough to know that he's just not this guy that they're trying to pretend he is. So the saving grace at this point is he's not being overly disruptive either to your offense. Like, he's not trying to do too much. He's, yes, he bricks a shot that is wide open. every game, 2, 3, 4 wide open shots every single game are going to go clank front rim. He's probably going to end the season, averaging 30 to 32% from three. I would not be surprised if Scottie shoots better from three this year than Dennis Schroeder. I'm not kidding. However, what he's doing on defense and what he's doing just by pressuring the basketball, doing things without the basketball, I think those have been the most encouraging things for me. And that's a little bit why I would have started Jeff Dowtin, because I think Jeff does a lot of that. So if Dennis can do a little bit of the stuff that Jeff would do otherwise, which is set others up, kind of just push on defense, be a point of attack defender, I think, he's been decent in terms of pressuring the basketball. Again, we haven't really played anyone great apart from De'Aaron Fox in the first game. So I'm not really sure how this is going to hold up, but you are smaller with him, obviously. But I'm glad that he's allowing Scottie to run point. That's the one saving grace at this point. And I think that the team has looked much better for it. I am worried, however, that apart from a couple of plays tonight, this Dennis Schroeder, Jakob Poeltl thing may not be the greatest fit. What made Jakob and Fred so great last year was Fred could shoot the deep three. There was always a threat. So it was just a little bit higher. Too often, Pascal Siakam is going right into the paint, and he got blocked by Bilal Coulibaly today. He almost got blocked, I think, by Gafford at one point. Like, it's just congested. It's so congested when Jakob is in there. So I'm wondering what the Raptors can do to remedy the situation. I realize that contracts, unfortunately, as we found out with Jeff, dictate a lot of the outward, narrative of a team. But let's be honest. This is not an ideal point guard to put next to Scottie, OG, and Pascal. And this is not an ideal center to put next to Pascal, Scottie, and OG. I wonder, however, if Scottie continues this ascent that he is on right now, and he really does do this, because I think the Raptors have just kind of said, prove it to us. Show us that you are this guy. Show us that you're worth handing the keys over to, because there's a lot of weird stuff going on in Raptorland. Gary Trent Jr. extension still looming. Pascal Siakam extension. This is a team that is just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Okay. And I think the other shoe to drop is, Scottie, show us you're an all-star. If you show us that you are really this guy, if you show us that you are him, then maybe we can start to really construct this roster around you instead of with you. And at that point, I do wonder if long-term you really do need to rethink Schroeder and Jakob Poeltl. Great guys, lovely teammates, good locker room presence. I'd be remiss if I did not say, overall, on the preseason, I'm very impressed. I give this team a solid A for the preseason, apart from not playing Jeff, Scottie getting injured, some weird sort of synergy between the starting unit, some strange rotations. I think overall you give it an A, because you see where they were last year and you see where they are now, and you just say kudos, because this is about as fast as you could have possibly expected them to adjust to a new coach, to a new play style. A lot of teams go one of two ways when a new system comes in. I mean, this is not just, they got a new coach. This is not Dwayne Casey to Nick Nurse. This is a complete disruption of continuity. You have a new starting point guard. You have a new head coach, new assistant, new lead assistant, new everything. There's like, everything is brand new. And yes, you have some continuity going back to last season, but it is completely different. The defensive scheme is different. The offensive scheme is different. So you have to give it some time. I think they've really bought in. I think the culture has, for all intents and purposes, honestly, the vibes are better. Everything you're seeing, I realize that social media can be very deceptive, but I've talked, because of this Jeff Dowtin situation, I've had a chance to talk to a few people who are really close to the team, and they say, last year there was a feeling of like, almost like heaviness in the locker room. When you would go in, you would almost be counting the seconds where you can go out. Like, they were not happy in the locker room. You could tell you were around a lot of people who were withholding a lot of emotions, or, feeling very repressed, and there's none of that this year. It seems like it's just all reset. Pascal's happy, despite the contract situation. Garrett Temple has made a difference. Otto keeping things light. Gradey keeping things light. Marquise Noel, like all of these guys, like they brought in good people into the organization, and I think that it's helping. I think Darko Rakovic's energy and guidance is helping. So overall, I think, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that you have to sort out at some point this season. Number one, you have to sort out the timeline. You have to sort out the Siakam situation, the OG situation, the Gary situation, the Malachi situation. Do you have a backup point guard? You have to figure out this Christian Koloko thing, which is hanging over my head like a cloud because he's one of my favorite players and he's got this respiratory condition and, he's a very young player and obviously worried about him. But he is an important part of what you can do going forward. I think you have to rethink, or maybe at least think very deeply about, okay, we don't have a draft pick, but how good are we? Look, this is a 41 team last year that just lost apparently its second best player in Fred VanVleet, which I think most of us would debate very heavily, to the Houston Rockets. A lot of people expect this team to win 36 wins this year. But if this team comes out in a surprising fashion, let's say 16-4, 16-6, something of that sort, where it feels like, okay, like this is real. Like we've played some real teams, some real competition. Scottie has taken a step. Like we have something here. Now, can you start rethinking what your real timeline actually is? Does that help or hurt the case to re-sign Pascal Siakam? Does that completely change the timeline in terms of what you're willing to trade for? Maybe, right now you're not willing to trade the bird in the hand for the bird in the bush. You're not willing to trade Pascal Siakam because you're worried that maybe Scottie isn't him because of what happened last year, and maybe he didn't take the growth that you wanted last year. So maybe you don't want to trade him for AJ Griffin and a package around that and put movement shooters around Scottie. But I think you have it on pretty good authority that, the Raptors have held Scottie out of trade talks for Kevin Durant and Dame Lillard. So they must have a very strong conviction about him. So maybe they're just waiting for that. We're 98% sure, make us 100% sure, Scottie, and we'll make some moves. I think you have to think about a lot of things, man, because the timeline, while in theory it could make sense, it's like you're still in the middle. And if Scottie Barnes is really, if he's better than Siakam right now, I know that might be hot take territory, but if he's on that level, I think we all agree that Pascal Siakam's the 25th to 28th, 22nd to 28th. You can go very generous and say 20th to 30th best player in the NBA. If Scottie is also one of the 30 best players in the NBA this year, and believe me, it's happened before. Jason Tatum took that jump in year 3 where it was pretty unquestionable that he was in that conversation by year 3. There are players like this. If he takes that step, even if we say, okay, currently, let's say he's a top 60 player, let's say he jumps to top 35 player. Now you have 2 guys who are in that conversation and they're very, very hard to stop together. Do you start thinking, really about like putting more around this? Can you put more around this? Can you remove restrictions? Can you know what I mean? So I think I'm wondering what could possibly be given out if nothing else. But I wonder really where this team will be if they start out hot, because if nothing else, we've always seen that the Raptors evaluate who they are at the deadline. Last year they evaluated, they thought they needed help at the center. The previous year they evaluated, they thought that, hey, like we're further than expected. We really have this great young player in Scottie Barnes. Let's get Thaddeus Young and give up a first round pick. So with the weight of the players who are potentially hanging the balance this year not being, small contracts like Khem Birch, etc., I wonder if it could be a bigger thing. Could it be a Gary remove the protection, 2 picks, and get a massive upgrade at the 1, something like that? I don't know. So that will be interesting to see. Overall, I think that the starting lineup has to massively get more cohesive, and even with Scottie and Pascal taking that step, I think it's going to be a little bit difficult for me long term to buy that this is the type of team, these 5 players together playing any number of minutes against other starters is going to be a recipe for success. I think it's way too easy to stop. I think Schroeder and Jakob Poeltl negatively impact spacing so much, and I don't think Scottie, OG, and Pascal can do anything to stop it. I wonder if this is one of those things where, maybe the big switch in a couple of weeks when the Raptors struggle or do well is they realize that Dennis Schroeder simply doesn't work with the starting lineup. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm overly optimistic about this team, overall optimistic about this team. And I think it'd be very, very hard for me to see if, unless there's a catastrophic injury, touch wood, that this team finishes under 43 wins. I think they are just really, really good defensively. I think they have, to everyone out there who said that they would absolutely fall off a cliff without Fred VanVleet, don't hold your breath. I think Pascal Siakam is really dialed in. I think O.G Anunoby is on another level. I think there's so many, positive defenders. I think Jalen McDaniels is helping. I just think that on an average night, when you're playing an average team, especially at home, like you're gonna have a real chance to mollywop them. Anyways, we are definitely way better than the Knicks. I wouldn't say definitely way better than the Knicks. I don't think I would say we're worse than the Knicks. I mean, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle. What am I scared of on the Knicks? I think the conversation really is there's a tier, which is above the rest, according to most people, despite the controversy happening with AJ Griffin in Milwaukee. I think until proven otherwise, Milwaukee and Boston are kind of on one level. I think there's another conversation to be had for tier 2, which is wait and see. But I think we can firmly say that Cleveland should be considered ahead. They added a lot of shooting to a team that was sorely lacking it, and I think that it will help them. And I think that the ascent of Evan Mobley and Darius Garland is not something that you should sleep on, because I think that most NBA analysts would rank Evan Mobley and Darius Garland ahead of Scottie Barnes right now as a trade asset. And I think they would rank them ahead of Pascal Siakam too. So I'm not saying they're better players, but those are their second and third best guys. And that's how the league feels about them. Now, could Scottie and Pascal make some people eat some crow? For sure. But I do want to say, don't sleep on the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're a really good team. And I think, last year was sort of the first year with Donovan Mitchell, but I think that, it's going to be really, really hard to stop that team if they're gelling. So I think you have them, and I think there's a bit of a wait and see approach with Philly, because you still have to see what they get back, but they still have Joel Embiid, and they still have, they've looked really interesting defensively under Nick Nurse. They have Paul Reed. I don't know what that's worth, but apparently Nick Nurse loves Paul Reed and thinks he's going to be the next Pascal Siakam. I don't see it, but I think he's a good young player. Obviously Tyrese Maxey, whatever they get back for James Harden. So I think you could put those 4 teams tentatively above the Raptors. And then the conversation really starts with Knicks, Hawks, Raptors, Bulls. There's a lot of teams. Indiana Pacers. I'm definitely forgetting someone really big. But yeah, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that the Raptors could push for 4th, 5th. So this is basically like top end 47, 48 wins, So I don't know. That would be very interesting. Okay. Let us here. I'm going to show you a little clip, and then we're going to get to some calls. I apologize. FA was waiting, and then now he's gone, but we will get to the calls in 2 to 3 minutes. I just want to show you a little bit of this clip. I studied, I think, 21 minutes of game film on him. He made one mistake the whole freaking time he was on the court. I think every other player made at least 10. I don't get it. I talked to a scout 2 days ago. I said, can you name me 40 point guards in the NBA that are better than Jeff Dowtin? I want a real pulse on this, because there's 450 players in the NBA, right? When you add all the two-way contracts, now it's close to 500, 550. Jeff Dowtin Jr. does not have a contract. He's not old. He is not a 32-year-old washout. Right. He is in his prime right now. I'm struggling to understand why Jeff Dowtin does not have a 2, 3, 4-year contract. I'm on record saying I would start him. I'm not even joking. That's not cap. I would start him in a heartbeat, because he fits so well. So I'm trying to understand, am I stupid? What am I missing?
I don't know. I mean, like this summer, I mean, every summer is different. Like we talked offline, but every summer is different. This past summer, we kind of went back to, like, not the basics, but last summer we worked on just the basic stuff, getting ready for summer league, because we knew that was a big opportunity with Toronto, because Jeff knew going in that Toronto, they valued their G League team. So if you played well in their G League team on a two-way, they would give you a shot, and that's not necessarily the case on several NBA teams.
Right.
And we heard this from several people. So, but this summer, we knew, he had an opportunity to be the backup point guard, to solidify himself in the NBA. We knew he had done a wonderful job in the G League. We knew he did a wonderful job at the end of the season when given ample minutes to prove himself, and we just wanted to get ready. So we kind of worked on the game situation stuff, reads out of the screen and roll, of course, getting in great shape, hitting the shots that he would probably get in the game, corner threes, come off screen and rolls, finishing at the rim. But now we also worked on a lot of one-on-one stuff because people often say, "Oh, Jeff can't score. Oh, Jeff can't shoot." Well, no, he just knows how to play, and he understands if he's going to stick in an NBA, he's not going to be a guy that's like James Harden or Kyrie Irving. No, you've got to be very, very, very efficient in 2 to 3 dribbles. So that's what we worked on, getting ready for that. And they say in LA, he did a wonderful job, which I knew he would, and he knew it as well. And he told me, yeah, I'm doing very well. I'm very confident going into the season. I'm ready. But like we would work out 6 a.m., some days 8 a.m. Then from there, he would go on to get a lift in around 10:30. We would come back in the afternoon. Well, he would go and do some yoga or Pilates. Sometimes I would go too. I'm not a super fan of Pilates, although I need it, but I would go with him from time to time. And then we would come back in the afternoon and just get a lot of reps up, a lot of reps. And it was like that 5 or 6 days a week. Outside of that, he was in Toronto working out with his coaches, and then he would go out to LA, work out with some guys out there, and then he went on to Rico Hines, work out with the Raptors, and then they would play. So it was every day, 5, 6 days a week. I would have to force him to take a Sunday off, and if by chance we took the Sunday off, we were watching film or doing Pilates, which again is not my favorite thing to do. So he was very, very, very locked in to being the best player he could be, and he knew this was going. Well, he thought this was going to be a great opportunity for him. He had a great end of the season last year. He had great seasons in the G League, playing with I think with Santa Cruz, Lakeland. He had a few stints with Milwaukee and the Golden State Warriors before latching on with Toronto. So he was ready, and Orlando as well. So he was ready. And everyone says, Jeff is a worker. He's a joy to be around and stuff like that. But we just wanted to really show, no, he can really score it. And if you give him the opportunity, if you tell him, Jeff, go get 30, that's not what I want to do because I don't think that's the best way to play. But I'll do it. And if you make me mad, I'll do it. I mean, you saw in that game the other night when he only got 8 minutes and he went 3 for 3, 2 for 2 from the free throw line, had 8 points, 8 minutes. That's because he was mad. That's because he felt like, okay, I have to prove that I can do something. And if you're only going to give me 8 minutes, I'm going to maximize those 8 minutes.
Yeah. Like my heart kind of goes out, right? In a very real way. This doesn't feel fair to me. I don't want to harp on it, but it doesn't feel entirely fair to me. I think he's the best point guard in the world without an NBA contract right now. I don't even think that's debatable. I don't think I know a person with half a brain cell that would debate that right now. And there's a part of me that feels, to some extent, again, I'm not saying anything about the Raptors, but I feel like had he been given a fair warning that this would be the situation, maybe there was an opportunity to prove it with somebody else. Because at the end of the day, you don't have a guaranteed contract. You're auditioning for 29 other teams, and you can't really audition with 8 minutes. I'm really hoping to give him some minutes tonight. But there's a very good chance that by the time we release this video, Jeff Dowtin is an ex-Raptor. And the entire push on the free Jeff Dowtin, have you seen this?
I have. I've been following.
Every single YouTube comment, like everywhere. I don't care if it's a video about somebody else. It's a video like Gary passing a Pascal. Top comment, free Jeff Dowtin.
Free Jeff Dowtin. Free Jeff.
After everything that the Raptors went through last year, right? You followed it, obviously. All the, we're selfish, we're this, we're that, we're this. We're going to have a new culture. I'm struggling to understand what more this guy could have done because he is literally the embodiment of everything you're asking these players to be.
Exactly.
And so I can feel like some way about it. And I guess it's one of those things in life, like when you've experienced this, you don't want other people to experience it. Even if the person that you want to shield from this is an NBA athlete, It was a really great conversation. Brian is a former teammate of Kevin Durant. We talked about KD. We talked about my childhood fandom of KD, how much I looked up to him because KD and I are around the same age. I went to a lot of basketball camps when I was younger and people would talk about him. I would see him, he was a year ahead and, you would just whoa, that guy, you thought you worked hard, and then you would see Kevin Durant and you'd be like, oh, wow, like that's hard work. A lot of really great conversations. And yeah, it's going to come out tomorrow, and it's going to be supplemented with a lot of Jeff stuff. I'm sorry, y'all. Like, I didn't even want to do a live tonight. I'm just being honest. Like, I didn't want to. I know that might seem overreactionary to some people. You know what I mean? Like, some people are probably like, bro, he didn't, like, nothing happened to him. He's going to be fine. I'm sure that I'm probably taking this harder because he's just one of my favorite players. And maybe he's not your favorite player. Maybe he's not one of your favorite players. And this, it doesn't really affect you at all. It's just a guy, it's like Delano Banton or whatever. I didn't feel any way about Delano Banton getting waived. I'll just be honest with you. Like, I was like, man, that's surprising, but I didn't have any sort of like attachment to it at all. I'd never had an interaction with Delano Banton. It just kind of feels like a raw deal for someone who didn't deserve it. It was really weird to see him on the bench today, just kind of sitting there stone faced. And I'm just like, man, if this platform 2 years from now, when this happens, I promise you, if this platform has like 30 to 40,000 subscribers or 50,000 subscribers, I'm going to organize, like, literally, I'll be able to organize like a fan chant. Like, can you imagine trying to drown that out of a Sportsnet broadcast? Free Jeff Dowtin. Like, the fans, if, real fans actually could afford tickets, could have done this, and just, I don't know, maybe it would have made ESPN, random Raptor fans chant free Jeff Dowtin, and some other scout or some other GM could have said, what is it about this guy that I'm not paying attention to that I need to pay attention to? Because I know that there are a lot of players in the league that get overlooked for a multitude of reasons. You think when Stanley Johnson is undrafted, he gets waived, that every GM doesn't think back, oh, that was the guy who went 7th overall. When you go undrafted, it's very easy to become forgotten. I think Fred VanVleet talked about this a lot too. So I empathize very greatly, and I hope this video will do some small thing to help. But he's going to be fine. It's me who needs consoling right now. Anyways, okay, let's get to the calls. Again, if you want to call in, link is in the description. You can call in. Mohammed, what's up, man? I think you were the person with the weird connection last time.
Yeah, it's better now, is it?
It's a little bit better. You still need to turn me off and get on a headphone. Do you have headphones?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. Well, then I'm just going to keep having to hear myself when I'm talking.
Okay.
But how about you just talk and I'll listen, and then we can end this. Yeah.
My issue with the Raptors, right, the current lineup is there's too many guys that can't shoot the three perfectly. You have Scottie, Siakam, Poto, and Schroeder. I personally think they need to trade Siakam. I think they need to really. I don't know if Atlanta's still interested in him, but I really would look back at the Atlanta offer and get someone like AJ Griffin, who can shoot the three ball, who I think Darko can really help develop, and then maybe just add somebody like some salary filler like Bogan and Patty Mills, 3-for-1. I personally wouldn't mind that because I think AJ Griffin really is a. I think he definitely could potentially be a star.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm very high on AJ Griffin. The problem to some extent is that there's no way in hell that AJ Griffin is going to help you win more this year than Pascal Siakam. You're right. They already have so many guys, right? Like when Darko said, I'm going to play a 10-man rotation, I was struggling to figure out who those 10 players are going to be. If Christian Koloko is not having respiratory issues, ideally you would want him to get some minutes, Otto to get minutes, Precious, Boucher. How many guys can you possibly have? So if you trade Pascal Siakam, you're likely trading him for 2 to 3 players, right? So now you go from having 12 guys who deserve some sort of minutes to 14 guys that deserve some sort of minutes, which is like not great, because the value of the best player, having the best player in the equation, is actually much greater. So do you see a player out there who's better than Siakam, who could be available for a trade, that fits better with Scottie, that fits better on his timeline? Because I'm struggling to find that player.
Right now on Siakam's level and his contract, I do see future young players that could potentially be as good as Siakam. Like, to me, I'm really high on AJ Griffin. I like some of the young guys on Miami too. I like I like Jovic. I think he can be a power forward that can he really is talented.
You think he can be as good as Pascal Siakam?
Jovic, I think he really can. Not defensively, but I think he can shoot the three better, and he can really get the offense going.
That's interesting. I mean, see, this is the thing, Mohammed. Like, I think there's always sort of an unknown factor with young players, right? Like, it's one thing for me to say right now that Gradey could be as good as Gordon Hayward meets Mike Miller meets Ray Allen, but the chances of hitting that outcome are still very small. And as much as we want to say that AJ Griffin is really talented for his age, and he's very young, he's 19 years old, and Nikola Jovic is flashing all sorts of potential. These guys were both rookies last year, and we don't know how they're going to react to a year of being a pro. We just don't know. I mean, there's so many unknowns with young players. So I understand where you're coming from with this, and I have to temper my own expectations sometimes, with young players, like, especially when a guy really jumps off the page, like a Shaden Sharp, or even analytically, like a Dyson Daniels last year. And you're just like, man, if things break right for this guy, he's going to be great. And then sometimes you're right, but then sometimes you're just dead wrong, and they go completely the opposite way. So I think the complication for the Raptors is they don't have their draft pick this year, and they have no incentive to be bad, and they're not going to get anything for it. And it's a shit draft, so it's not even like you can trade for draft compensation. I think the best trade that the Raptors could possibly make would be one of, like, I think it probably was something like the Damian Lillard trade, where you trade for a vast upgrade on Siakam that fits better next to Barnes, but you give up some age. Barring that, I'm not sure what fits. And I don't know who could become available. Do you see any players who could become available, like a Paul George? Like, would you trade Pascal Siakam for a Paul George? I mean, Paul George is older, but he does fit better next to Scottie. Right?
I would not. I wouldn't do Paul George. I just think he's. I just don't see any value in him right now. But the one trade that I actually would do is, because I really think Toronto needs they need a second center, like a 7-footer who has muscle on him, who can go right away. And I think the one guy that I'd really like is Mark Williams. I wouldn't mind getting someone like maybe Gordon Hayward and Mark Williams for Pascal, something of that sort.
That's interesting. I like Mark Williams too. I like Jalen Duren more, but I like Mark Williams. I don't think the Pistons are going to give you Jalen Duren, but I mean, look, things can change. Things can change really fast. There are a lot of teams right now that maybe they think that they're contenders or playoff bound, and they're going to start 0-10 or 0-12, or they're going to start 4-12, and they're going to get really desperate, and they're going to have this really blue chip prospect and an aging vet who's not working out, and a big contract and a boatload of draft picks, and suddenly Pascal Siakam is going to look like water in a desert to them, right? Conversely, you could also have a team on the opposite end, right? A team that maybe isn't expecting to be competitive, but then suddenly starts out 10-2, and they're like, oh shit, we're really close. We could actually use Pascal Siakam. Here, take 5 of our draft picks. So I am curious how this game is going to work out for the Raptors. Obviously, there is the dread and fear that it will be exactly like all the other situations that worked out like this, like the Kyle Lowry situation, Fred VanVleet situation, where you might lose him for nothing at the end of the season. And oh my God, I don't think Masai recovers from that, right? Because whatever you're going to lose him for, you can't lose him for nothing. Or maybe you sign him. I don't know. But this flexibility thing, I think, does need to end. But I think the Raptors might just get lucky. I think a team just might get desperate.
Yeah, I just got one more thing to say. That could possibly happen. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see how good Atlanta is going into the season. Maybe they end up panicking. Who knows? And they may end up calling Toronto as Siakam. I just got one more thing to say. I really like OG. I think OG is perfect as a 3-and-D, but I don't see him as a number 1 option, let alone a number 2 option. I just think his ball handling is not very good. Sometimes he looks a little awkward. I just think that maybe Darko needs to tell him that you're better off as a 3-and-D, someone who can really get us defensively going and hit those clutch 3 shots when we need it. Because OG is a clutch player. He did hit clutch shots in the past, in the playoffs in the past. I just think he needs to fit in that role and not just because he keeps saying, I keep hearing rumors that he wants a bigger role, bigger role. He doesn't realize he does have a big role. He's the best defensive player on our team, and someone would say probably, I don't know, top 5 defensive player in the league. But I just think that
Very generous.
yeah,
I
yeah, that's
mean,
all I got to say for now.
all right. Thanks, Mohammed. Thanks for calling.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Cheers. I don't blame a young player for thinking that he can do more, especially when he's been sort of boxed in, especially because I think that there's some evidence to suggest that he could do more. I wonder what the limit of that more is. I have my own concerns. I don't think that more means that he's going to suddenly be, dribble drive, ISO guy. I don't think he's going to turn into a second option or first option, but could O.G Anunoby not be a second option? Have we not seen him serve as a second option in spurts and it work out? I mean, we've seen glimpses of it, right? I think it was I want to say it was in Scottie's rookie year where Pascal Siakam started the season out injured. I think it was last year when Siakam was out. Every time Siakam's been out, he's been balling. So really, it's one of the two. I think they kind of get in each other's way. I think there was a previous caller who brought that up at some point, and I think that tends to be true. When you have Scottie and OG and Pascal, I think one of them will always get in the other's way. And as much as I like this experiment defensively, I think offensively it doesn't completely work all the time unless the other two players are basically the most optimized players. And right now they are not. So I wonder if the Raptors, look, there's all these restrictions. You signed Dennis Schroeder, you signed Jakob Poeltl. You can't trade those guys right now. Gary Trent, there's so much. I think as much as it may panic Raptor fans right now to know this, I think this team will be feeling like they have to make a decision by December. I'm hopeful that they're not going to wait right till the deadline, but I think they'll wait for the deadline to expire to be able to, potentially move off of Dennis Schroeder or Jakob Poeltl and those contracts, because right now, there's a lot of your roster that just cannot move. And I think a lot of the league that cannot move. But letting Pascal Siakam test free agency next year is a no-no. I don't want to hear it. Stripping down at the deadline is not the worst thing in the world. I've mentioned this before, that it doesn't really matter at the end of the day what draft pick you surrender. If things are going badly for you, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because I would much rather surrender the 7th pick this year than have to surrender the 7th or 8th pick, or have that looming in my head that I have to give up the pick next year when the draft is absolutely stacked. I don't know what the exact relative value is, but I think it would be fair to say that the 5th pick in 2024 draft will be roughly equivalent to about the 14th pick or the 15th pick in the 2025 NBA draft. So if you want a rough conversion of what you've really given up, you haven't given up a ton. Even if you give up the 5th pick, it's almost like you're giving up the 15th pick the next year. I know it'll probably sting, especially if there's some player that everyone's really hyped about that's there and everyone's going to be really upset about it, but it's just not a strong draft. That's what I'm seeing. I've looked at the top 3 players. I'm like, those guys would be like, they wouldn't be top 7 players last year. So it's not something worth crying over, is what I'm going to say. Let's take some comments here. I think at some point someone said something about Rob and his phantom sources that really stuck out when I was reading that. Okay, cool. I mean, like, the people who know me, like, we've been around each other. I've shown you DMs. I've shown you some screenshots. I'm obviously not like at liberty to be like, okay, well, this guy and I talked, and this guy and I talked, because honestly, like, that's how you lose trust. So by being that type of person, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't just talk out of my ass, man. I told you what was going on in the Raptors locker room last year, and I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, okay, let's take some comments here. Are we going to talk about Nick Nurse's burner account? No, we're not. I mean, look, I get that it's probably somebody pretending to be somebody, but like, why is it Nick Nurse? Why is it automatically assumed that it's Nick Nurse? I think the more interesting, probably more credible story to talk about is Adrian Griffin, like, and what happened with Terry Stotts. It's not absolutely uncommon or unheard of for, assistant coaches to sort of be vying for a first year coach's job, especially when you consider that, like, among all first year head coaches this year, from Darko Rajakovic to technically Ime Udoka, who's, there, to Adrian Griffin, ironically, all kind of Raptors connected in a way. Um, Out of all those situations, I think that by far Adrian Griffin is under the most pressure out of any of them. The minute that Damian Lillard trade was made, you could really feel it. And Terry Stotts and Damian Lillard have a pre-existing relationship. I totally understand it from Adrian Griffin's perspective. Like, this is not necessarily, the best idea in the world. Yes, he's a very experienced coach, but Adrian Griffin is a former pro player. I don't know if you guys remember that. I used to play with this guy in 2K. Like, he's a former pro player. He's been around the game long enough. His son plays in the NBA. He's been assistant coach long time. So he might have felt some way about, hey, like, I'm asking my assistant coach to come to the huddle, and he's telling me that he needs to talk to the players. I don't blame him. That being said, I think Terry Stotts is a hell of a coach, and, I don't blame him either. I think it's just not a great fit. But it is interesting. This entire coaching tree, this entire Nick Nurse coaching tree is a lot of drama, isn't it? Would you agree with that? There's a little bit of drama. I mean, we got Nate Bjorkgren, right? Apparently doing some crazy shit in with the Indiana Pacers. Now you got, Adrian Griffin having a scandal this early, right? This is kind of just weird. It's just weird. It's weird vibes all around. Okay, we got a super chat. Hang on. Rank Scrub. All I want out of next year's draft is Zach Edey. People seem to be really high on this guy. I'm curious why. Well, I'm curious what you guys are seeing in him that I'm necessarily not. Now, maybe I have blinders on because I typically don't take guys who are that tall and move that way very seriously. But maybe. I mean, I'll have to watch a little bit more tape on him. And I mean, analytics are off the charts, but I mean, it's college, and he's like 7 foot, 3, 2, 7'4". He's huge. It's funny. Yeah, that tends to be exactly what ends up happening, right? It's like the lateral movement. You get pulled up high, teams just spread you out and absolutely kill you, right? Edey is second round pick at best. He's Bobanish. It's actually kind of surprising to me, like, I was listening to man, I've met him quite a few times, so I don't want to talk ill of Jack Armstrong. He is great at what he does. But I really do think that people who talk about basketball need to study basketball a little bit more. Like, I think that it's almost like irresponsible at this point. Like, can you imagine if Matt and Jack actually did know a little bit more about analytics? How much smarter we can get while watching these games. I mean, him saying that Gradey's plus 36, I don't really care about analytics, but that's crazy. How did he do that? Like, that was just, it was like, whoa. Like, this is a former coach who's been around the Raptors for 20 plus years, and he sounds like there's some guy at a bar. Maybe that's the appeal. Maybe that's why people like him so much. I mean, I like him. I don't dislike Jack. I think he's trying to tell it like it is or whatever, but it's a little bit strange. I don't know. Somebody sent me, I think Coach Mo sent me a video of Leo Routens talking about the changing narrative on Scottie Barnes. I think they were talking on one of those Canadian shows, and they're talking about, like, oh, this kind of entitled kid who, needs an attitude adjustment last year, and Leo pushed back on that, and I was really thankful. But I'm like, bro, these are the people that talk sports in our city. Like, what is going on? I think we need a better class of sports analysts, and there are plenty available. But I think that data needs to come into at least the equation of how we talk about sports. I think that it has to be there. I'm sick and tired of listening to really old people tell me that they can tell with their eyes. You can't. You just can't. You're too distracted. That's funny. He's better than Alvin. That's true, I guess. But I'm not really sure how much that's going to say. When am I going to draw you in chess again? Bro, I just played an 1800 game. I don't know why you keep like trying to like I check on you once in a while. You still have 400. Like, what are you talking about? This is honestly like you're like Fred VanVleet going up to Michael Jordan saying I could beat you one-on-one in your prime. Like, what are you doing with your life? All right. He's definitely not afraid to tell it like it is, right? To some extent. So, yeah. Get Samson Folk on the mic. That would be a massive upgrade over what we're currently listening to on television. IMG is sorry, hella gay. Cool, man. Good for you. All right. Man hit you with the MJ line. It's funny. I believe you can beat him. You still believe in Santa Claus, don't you? You know what? We'll do it live one day. You know what, your goat? I can do screen share, right? One day, you and I are going to play live on the end of one of these lives, and we're going to watch. You're going to have like 3,000 people watch you get crushed. Do I follow Scottie on Twitch? I don't really fuck with Twitch, to be honest. I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm not a kid. I didn't grow up with that stuff. But I will tune in once in a while. I think like when he started doing them, I think I watched like half of one. But I typically watch clips. I think Erica mentioned one time, she was like, yo, Rob, like they're talking about you on there or whatever. Okay, that's cool. Samson was on Will Liu and held it down this week. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I hope that means that he did a good job. Yeah, I think he was shouting out more the name. You ever play yourself in chess? No. It is a chat platform also. Yes, I am aware. I know what Twitch is. I'm not that old. Like I do know what Twitch is. I just don't find it super engaging to watch other people play video games. That's just me. I understand that that's like really cool for some people. But if I am missing video games that much, I'll just play video games myself. Maybe that's just my generation. I'm not sure. Yeah. Oh my God. Did I just say my generation? Oh my gosh. 80s kid, man. 80s kid. All right. Seems to hit the reset button like a PS5. Okay, another video game reference. All right. Yeah, man. Sorry for the sort of somber note on tonight's thing. I'm looking forward to the season. I was looking at the first 12 games. The first 24 games. I think it's 23 games up until the midseason tournament. I came up with a prediction for the first 24 games of 13 and 11. So that's how I expect them to start. I am, however, curious to see if they'll exceed that. And I think a lot of that will depend on health and cohesiveness. But, you know, it'll be interesting. I think Scottie's most improved player odds need to be boosted. I think currently it's 17-1. His MVP odds are currently 501-1 to anyone who wants to take that bet. I think it's a pretty long shot for Scottie to win MVP politically and probably from an opportunity standpoint, but he will have an opportunity. And, you know, MVPs are all like narrative driven, right? It's all about narratives. Like guy comes out of nowhere and averages 28, 8, and 8, and his team exceeds win totals by 15 or 17. Like it could be a very easy case to win MVP, especially if Nikola Jokic continues to sort of downplay the importance of the award. Scottie could put up very Jokic-ish stats I mean, he won't be Jokic. He won't have Jokic impact. He won't be Jokic efficiency. But he could put up some very very unimaginable type of stats. You know, like there's still a bias towards what I call like 5 category stuffers, like guys who get blocks, steals, rebounds, assists, points, right? And who shoot on a decent efficiency. So if he's 50, 35, 80, right, in terms of efficiency, then that's solid. Like that's not, and no one's going to complain about 50, 35, 80. It's not 60, fine, but it's not inefficient. If he can get to that in terms of efficiency, and then he can put up like a solid 25, 8, and 8, and the Raptors are really good, and he's going crazy on defense, like, yes, like you have at least the same case that Derrick Rose had when he won MVP. So we're going to put $1 on Scottie Barnes winning MVP and hopefully win $501. But I think All-Star, Most Improved Player, I think those are very much more in the cards and probably are going to be the soft step that he's going to take. But I mean, I've been watching a lot of preseason basketball. There are some players who've obviously stuck out as, oof, like this looks like a different player right now. There are some guys who are just beating up on really bad competition because they're trying really hard and they're running the floor, and you know, it's a lot of transition stuff. I'm more curious about how you're scoring. And I think the way that Scottie's scoring is like, it's not just off of hustle. Yeah, some things are off of hustle, you know, he's getting his own rebound or whatever. It's not just that. It's where he's taking the shots from. He's hitting threes, man. Like, I mean, if he was doing this last year, everything that he's doing right now, he can do in the regular season. I honestly don't think that there's anything that he did in the last 3 games against NBA competition in preseason that he can't do exactly as efficiently in an NBA game that counts. Maybe not against the Bucks and Celtics. It'll have to be a little less efficient and he'll have to adjust. But I think like against most NBA teams, he can do exactly what he did. No one's stopping him. So, yeah, there's a great video. I'll tie this live up, and we're an hour and 21 minutes, and I've been rambling off forever about, you know, how much I miss Jeff Dowtin already. But there's a great video by Jimmy High Roller, which I highly encourage if you can't sleep. It's past midnight right now, so if you can't sleep, definitely go check that out. And there's a clip in the beginning where he shows like how absurd Victor Wembanyama's reach is, and he flash freezes to a game from the other night where Victor basically is like doing the splits. And he has 1 foot close to the 3-point line, and he's swiping down at a guy at the free throw line. And he did the measurements, and it's just absolutely insane. When you watch this guy play offense, yes, but especially on defense, it does not feel like he comes from this planet. It's honestly is crazy. So I am really looking forward to seeing Victor Wembanyama play. I'm really looking forward to seeing Scottie Barnes play. I'm looking forward to I do want to give a shout out to Javon Freeman Liberty, man. Like, honestly, every time this guy gets like 2-3 minutes, 4 minutes, it doesn't matter. Like, he's just making shit happen. Takes nothing for granted. He has like this real slashing ability. I'm quite happy with my Norman Powell comparison because he's getting to the front of the rim like anytime he wants. Like, you cannot stop him. And he can actually shoot too. So this is another guy, you know, where you're going to see a lot of support from this channel for this guy to probably get some minutes. I'm not really sure who right now, but the NBA season is long. I'm sure he'll get his opportunity. Yeah, he makes impact plays. Absolutely. Victor? Who's Victor? Victor Wembanyama? Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, he is. Victor is a really decent chess player. Luka plays a lot of chess too. This is actually there's quite a few players who play chess. Also, I'll tell you something about Jeff Dowtin that you did not know. Did you know that Jeff got interest from Harvard University? I found that out like a couple of days ago, or I found out today actually. So Harvard University, they were interested in Jeff Dowtin. He had an offer from them. It's actually really cool. He's a really smart dude, man. He'll land on his feet. I'm better than Wemby at chess. Yeah, I don't think that you're better than my dog at chess, to be honest. I just get my dog to press random buttons. I'm pretty sure my dog would kick your ass in chess. Like, I would do shots. For every pawn you take, I'll take a shot live on air, get drunk, and probably still whoop your ass. All right. Okay. Oh dear God. Kudos for credit where credit is due. He had a half decent game today. It was cool. I'm glad to see it. The Raptors are. You know what? You're a liar. You are a liar. You're a fucking liar. I could literally pull up the receipts on that one. You didn't draw me shit. You lost 16 times. You drew once, and you drew once on the basis of 3. I think it was repetition. I didn't count correctly. I was killing you. No, you drew because I was trying to humiliate you. I had 5 queens, and then I think I tried to get a 6th queen, and I drew you. I mean, honestly, like that's an embarrassment. Like any half self-respecting chess player would have resigned like 30 moves prior to where you drew. So come on, man. How did Malachi play tonight? I think he played okay. I think he's still struggling with some of the reads and stuff, but I think he was more decisive tonight. He shot the ball reasonably well, looked a little bit more confident. I can see what the Raptors, ideally see in him. I just think that he's really small, and I think he's going to struggle personally. And I don't really like his mental makeup for the game. I ain't a quitter. I'm tough. No, you just don't understand the game. You don't understand the rules. Anyways. Jeff is a weak player. I don't like his game. Cool. I hope that GMs out there will absolutely disagree with you, and I think that they do. We'll see what happens with Jeff. I'm confident. I'm pretty confident. I'm hopeful and confident. I don't want to be overconfident, but I'm pretty confident that he's going to get a job really soon. And I hope that what this fan base has done for him is at least, look, I'll tell you something. It is very possible that, it's difficult for the average person who's making ends meet to feel like empathy for an NBA athlete, because there is a feeling that they're all millionaires and billionaires or whatever. But Jeff is not a multimillionaire. He's not like some super rich dude. He's not like, you got to understand where this dude is coming from, the amount of work that he's put in. He's criminally underpaid. And he's approaching his prime years, and this shit is not for granted. He's one injury away from his entire, career being over. Like, you don't understand like the pressure that puts on you, and you are a source of hope for your community, for your family. There's a lot of pressure there, right? Not pressure that he puts on himself, but I'm just saying, like, you got to understand the situation before you judge the situation, or, think about the situation. You have to see it from all angles. And, I remember when I was younger, I very vividly, like, I think most of us remember like certain emotions from when we were younger. One of my most vivid emotions from when I was younger was feeling invisible. Like, I felt like I felt things, and I wanted things, I needed things, and people didn't see me. Like, my parents didn't see me, my family didn't see me, my teachers didn't see me, my friends didn't see me. I felt like very unseen. And so I've always empathized with people in a moment where they feel unseen. So if there's like a moment where I feel like something really unfair is happening to somebody, I just want them to see that somebody out there sees it, right? This is why if you are on a train with me, I remember like it was right around the height of the pandemic. I probably shouldn't be saying that word on YouTube. I get demonetized for that. But it was right around, the height of the pandemic, and so some crazy, white couple came on a train and started talking all this mess to an Asian woman. Like, I darted from one end of the train to the other to give her a piece of my mind, because I couldn't let that happen to somebody. So I'm very attuned to this idea of like something bad is happening to someone that's not fair. They don't deserve it. And I just don't think that people are fully seeing this perspective from the full perspective. Look, Jeff spent the entire summer with the Raptors. He could have spent it with somebody else, right? If he had spent it with the Clippers, then right now the Clippers would have 4 months of knowing Jeff Dowtin. He could have spent it with the Sixers. He could have spent it with any team. There's any team would have happily brought him in on Masai's recommendation, on his pedigree, on his resume. This is a G League champion. Anyone would have done that for him. No problem. They may not have, given him a roster spot, but they would have brought him in. And if the guy doesn't have a chance with your team, then I don't see the point of this at all. Like, even in preseason, if you were only going to play him 8 minutes the entire preseason. I mean, now if I'm a GM, I don't know who this player is right now because he missed Summer League and now he's healthy in preseason and he only got 8 minutes. Why? Was it so important to get Garrett Temple minutes? Really? You haven't seen for the last 5 years that guy's washed? There is a certain empathy with which I expect this organization. I don't expect a lot of organizations to operate with this, but I do expect this organization to operate with it. Seeing it lacking towards someone who so clearly deserves it was very bothersome for me. It's pissed me off like endlessly. I can't believe it happened. Honestly, I know this feels really, really trivial and very small to people. And there's a lot of people who've kind of privately DM'd me and just said, Rob, like, small fish, big fish, like, chill, this is Jeff Dowtin Jr. Like, this is different. Last year you were defending Scottie and we got behind that, but this is Jeff freaking Dowtin. And I think that that's kind of why I'm doing it, because like, he's a person, he's an NBA player. He's, person who put his time and soul into this organization on the expectation that he was going to get a shot with this organization to prove that he belonged with this organization and he deserved it. It's one thing to get beat out because someone ahead of you is better, and we'll call that luck of the draw. He could be one of the top 50 point guards in the NBA, but if there are 3 point guards on your roster that are better than him, then tough shit. I get that. That's fair and square. We already have 3 point guards who are better than you. Sorry, Jeff. I get that, but that's not the case here. That's what's bothered me so much about it. Yeah, Rob, what were you thinking when Matty D said he was cut during the game? I was thinking, what a completely classless, ridiculous PR move to try and, do some damage control. You could have let him play, right? But what would you have done if he had gone off for 10 points in like 4 minutes? What would you have done? It just makes defending the decision even harder. So why play him? It's such a PR bullshit move. Anyways, we haven't even talked about it, but we did sign Justice Winslow. I believe he'll be playing for the Raptors 905. They're going to cut him right now if they haven't already cut him, and they're cutting Mohamedou Gay. Justice Winslow is interesting. Initially, my reaction to this was like, what the hell are the Raptors doing? This guy can't shoot. But when I found out that he was 905 bound, which I probably should have assumed right away if I wasn't being so emotionally reactive, I get it, right? Because I think he has a lot in common with some of the players on this team, namely OG and Scottie. He's kind of like a hybrid, like a homeless man's hybrid of those two players. Like, defensively, he's a beast. Like, if he was on the main roster, I think he could push Pascal Siakam for, like, he's a better defender than Pascal Siakam, in my opinion. I think he's kind of like on the same level as Scottie in terms of as a defender. Like, he's on that level. He's better than Joe McDaniels as a defender. You just want my honest opinion. Offensively, he's horrible. Other than passing, playmaking, he can't really do much. So Darko Rakic knows him. Maybe there's some sort of belief that maybe you can do something with him in the 905. Maybe you can develop something out of him. He is 27 years old. Guys don't usually develop at 27, but look at the irony, right? I'm saying Jeff Dowtin has so much in the tank, and he's 26, and I'm willing to write off Justice Winslow because he's had ample opportunities and he hasn't shown a hell of a lot at 27. But that being said, maybe that's just bias. So I hope that, he's an interesting player to watch for the 905. He's certainly, an ex-lottery pick. Ending up on your lottery on your 905 team is never necessarily a bad thing. And, I think from the 905 perspective, it's good for the 905 to be able to do some of the similar stuff as the main team does in terms of the schematic, element. And having guys, in film, we have stand-ins, right? So you have a main actor, a second actor, and when they are in their trailer, you have stand-ins. Typically, stand-ins are roughly the same height, roughly the same complexion, roughly the same ethnicity, roughly the same build as your main actors, and they stand in for those actors so that you can light the scene, so that the main actor doesn't have to stand there like Tom Cruise won't have to stand there, Harrison Ford won't have to stand there. Some guy who kind of looks like Harrison Ford is going to stand in. So in a lot of ways, I think like 905 and G League teams in general often use stand-ins. Like they want to have guys who are like similar size. So if you have someone like, I don't know, someone like Justice Winslow, if you have someone like Justice Winslow and Mohamed Ugay, well, you can see in theory what a play for someone like OG and I don't know, Chris Boucher or Christian Coloco could look like, right? You're getting similar traits out of those players defensively. And so you can even experiment with certain defensive schemes. You can kind of use those schemes. Then you can send Gradey and send Marquise Noel, send Malachi Flynn, potentially, probably should send Malachi Flynn down there, to there, so that they can actually work within a system that they are working with. And so in a lot of ways, the Raptors and the Raptors 905 have a lot of overlap in terms of how they coach and the systems that they use. So yeah. Appreciate you, man. I'll sign Jeff in 2K so I can sleep tonight. I appreciate you. I don't know if you're being sarcastic. I can never tell when people are being sarcastic, but I appreciate you, man. Thank you for enduring with me. I probably wasn't very engaging. I probably wasn't very upbeat. I'm being honest. I didn't want to do this. I feel kind of bad. I feel bad. I just felt bad. It was like, honestly, I was trying to get myself over it during the game because I knew I had to do a live, and then Scottie goes down with the injury. And then I was just like, okay, like, where are we at right now? Right? Like in terms of like Rob's favorite players, like one's got respiratory issues, one just got cut, and one just busted his foot. Like, how am I supposed to get excited about this? You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm happy that hopefully Darko Rapic is telling the truth. Scottie's going to be fine. Obviously, foot sprains typically have a 3 to 4 week shot. Like for most people, you're going to take 2 to 4 weeks with a foot sprain. If it's a serious sprain, it might be up to 6 weeks. But with Scottie, these sprains tend to be day to day. I don't know how he keeps coming back from them so fast. I don't know if he should be coming back from them so fast. But every time I've pushed back against this idea of him coming back too much, too quickly, I've always been told that I'm wrong. So I'll trust doctors and the people, who are in his camp and the people who are in the Raptors camp, that they know best. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, but it just seems crazy to me that he keeps coming back so quickly. Like he comes back in the same game. Like I'm pretty sure if it was a regular season game, he would have taped it up and come back out. I just don't know if that's a good thing long term, but that's just me. The start of never-ending injuries. I think that's probably a stretch, right? Wouldn't you agree? Because he's been, touch wood, relatively healthy through most of his. He's led the team in minutes played both years. So yes, he has gotten hurt quite a few times. He's a really big human being who often goes pinballing into the paint, and that sometimes can happen. Yes, he has had quite a few lower body injuries. This is dating back to college, pros. Every single year in the pros so far. That's 3 years in a row. And also I think in high school, like grade 11. So yes, it has been a trend, but he has also continued to play through it. It's never, touch wood, again, kept him out for a long time. So just going to hope that these are growing pains and that eventually he's just going to have like an entire year where we don't have any Scottie Barnes walks off the court and gives the entire fan base like a panic attack for 10 minutes. But I hope he's fine. I hope this is not like last year where a string of ankle issues kind of derailed his career a little bit. I think he just feels different. But I can tell you, like, even last year, 6 games into last season, he was shooting around 50% from 3, and he got hurt, and it went down to about 28% from that point. So do the math. It's like he shot 27% the rest of the way he started out, like on, I don't want to say decent volume, but it was half decent volume. He was shooting around 50, 52, 54% from 3 through the first 6 or 7 games of last year. So he has shot well before. I can tell you as someone who's played basketball that yes, ankle stuff does impact shooting a lot. So I hope that that's not going to make him uncomfortable. And yeah, I'll see y'all later. Hopefully we'll do a live, like a season preview, like an Eastern Conference, Western Conference preview. I'm going to talk to Leo and see if he wants to go do one. Be on the lookout for the Jeff Dowtin video. I realize he is now an ex-Raptor, but I still hope that you as Raptor fans can support him and support that video. I realize it's probably a little less relevant. I'm probably not going to be able to reach all of you with it, but I promise it is a very interesting conversation on the nature of the business of the NBA, Kevin Durant, Jeff, working hard, life. It talks about a lot of stuff that's not just all about Jeff's contract. So it'll still be relevant. All right. Take care, guys. Have a good one. Have a good night. And absolutely hit subscribe if you're not subscribed. And if you hate watching, thanks for that too. Peace.